Welcome to the start of a series chronicling the most wild, fantastic, and memorable stories from the Byzantine Empire. We'll begin, not at the beginning, but at a very interesting point nonetheless, with Emperor/Empress Irene. She comes from a very wealthy Athenian family and is betrothed to Leo IV. He comes to power in 775, and he only rules for about 5 years until his death in 780. Their son, Constantine VI, is supposed to be the successor, but trouble is he's 9 years old when he comes to power. So Irene is going to act as a regent until he is of age to govern the empire on his own. But there's much to indicate that she in many ways is more than just the regent, and was probably even the actual power behind the throne. On imperial edicts, she broke tradition and signed her name as regent first, before her son's, if he even signed anything at all. On coinage, she was more prominent and most often on the front side, with her son often on the back, again if he's even there at all. During this time, she also felt confident enough in her power to slowly reintroduce religious icons which had been banned, and stop enforcing the iconoclastic policies of the time, until in 787 she convened the Seventh Ecumenical Council, which officially condemned iconoclasm. So she had done all of these things while she's still technically just supposed to be the regent on the sidelines. But, well, it's evidently not the case. Now, by now, her son, Constantine VI, is getting a little tired of this. He's old enough to rule on his own, and so he becomes frustrated that his mother is effectively calling all the shots. So what does he do? Well, in typical Byzantine fashion, he exiles her to a faraway place. He strips her of all her formal titles, and now he seeks to govern on his own. But he's going to find out for the next couple years that he possesses but mediocre administrative capabilities, despite his worthiness as a field commander. And this mediocre efficacy eventually causes him in 792 to order her back to the palace. But this time, he makes it clear that I'm the one in charge, and you, Mother, Irene, you're just going to be an advisor. So Irene has had all this time planning and plotting. She's built up her power, and she's done all sorts of fascinating things, and she will continue to do so for the next 5 years, working to undermine her son. She sends away his uncles and potential rivals or threats, and she encourages him to publicly separate from his incredibly popular wife, which only wins him more of the citizens' animosity. And after all these maneuvers, finally, in 797, Irene makes her move. She goes up to her son and she blinds him in the room in which she gave birth to him. And the Byzantines had really perfected the art of blinding, as awful as it is, and so he dies very shortly thereafter. There is the possibility that he actually did not do so, because someone called Thomas the Slav, decades later, claimed to be the still alive Constantine VI and led some rebellions, but he probably died right there. For the next 5 years, Irene would rule alone until 802, becoming only the second Byzantine woman, technically, after Pulcheria, to do so. Now, people in the empire might question how she got there to the throne, but no one questioned her right to rule itself. That she was a woman, for example, did not matter. She was the empress, or as she styled herself, Basileus, Emperor Irene. Now, to ensure public admiration and popularity, she makes many public appearances with vast entourages, and she's literally throwing money at people. She also, to the same end, massively slashes taxes. Irene also gets into marriage talks, trying to form an alliance with Charlemagne in the West, but these ideas ultimately do not materialize, as Irene's eunuch advisors view Charlemagne as nothing more than just an upstart wannabe nobody. The Pope crowns Charlemagne on Christmas Day of 800, and he crowns him Emperor of the Romans, citing a forged document called the Donation of Constantine, which claimed that the Pope had the right to crown or remove emperors. Now, how could the Pope do this? Because there was already an emperor or Empress Irene in the East. Well, It's because the West viewed the imperial throne as vacant, because in the West, the idea of a woman being the ruler, as in Irene, is a laughingstock. It's illegitimate. It's impossible. This was not a problem in the comparatively more egalitarian, for the time, East. That she was a woman, it didn't matter. It's that she blinded her son that was the chief issue. Now, Irene's financial profligacy ultimately became her downfall, and her finance minister, Nikephoros I, worried about the Byzantine treasury, which was almost entirely empty and dried up. So he overthrows her in 802, and she is sent away to some faraway place where she dies shortly thereafter, probably the next year. Now, Irene nonetheless had much historical significance. Right? She ruled on her own for 5 years. She exemplified East-West divides at the time, and perhaps most importantly, she ended the first, but not last, phase of iconoclasm. That legacy is both deeply impactful and revealing. Thank you for listening.